Okay, actually, could you state your name, your profession, and your opinion of what I'm about to show the people?
Sure, my name is Chris Walling. I'm from Los Angeles, California, and I'm an academic healthcare executive. So primarily, what I'm observing here is that, especially at the top of the skull, that hole, would appear to be consistent with some of the other skulls who have trauma, whereupon in ancient times, the primary mechanism of surgery was to remove illness or spirit by really essentially creating a hole in the skull. This was a common medicinal practice that you saw throughout ancient Incan cultures and a lot of indigenous cultures. It was believed to be that would relieve the negative spirit and allow the person to heal. And that would be consistent with what I'm seeing here. This doesn't appear to be congenital or anything that is necessarily from birth, but rather happened much later on after the development of the form. But you have an extraordinary increase in the size, particularly of where you would see executive function in the brain, because that's where the largest part has sort of come out in 180 degrees on both sides, which would appear to not be necessarily from adulteration, but much more from evolution.
Yeah.
However, the cracks in the skull, and maybe it's because the museum has done that, there appears to be some form of adhesion that's been put there to try to keep it together. That's not part of the artifact itself.
Right, yeah. Senior Renato did that in order to keep the skull together.
Right.
So do you think you're looking at an example of cranial deformation, or possibly that this person was could have been born this way?
This is born this way.
Born this way.
Oh, yeah.
And the dentition, the teeth?
Now that's kind of odd, because even the mismatch of the coloration has got me kind of concerned that it's inconsistent, because typically, even with decalcification of most artifact that you find in teeth, particularly considering they didn't have good dental care, even at that time, you're not going to see that level of white compared to the rest of the skull. You would see a consistency between the coloration.
And how old would you estimate this person would have been at the time of death?
Well, that's difficult to say, because it's completely inconsistent with any typical, fetal evolution. So I can't even guess.
Do you see a difference in the size or the presumed age of the skull as compared to the development of the teeth?
Yes. Now that would indicate that you're looking at least anywhere from 8 to 10 years of age. But even the molars are so huge that it could be even late teens, early adult. It's a mismatch for me.
And that's not consistent with the size of the body?
No, it's not.
Does it have the normal number of ribs and
The
things
intercostals appear to also have experienced some form of trauma or have been severed at some point. Particularly in the upper rib cage, the first, second, and third ribs appear to be severed from some device, because you'll see the exposed bone has been cut, whereas the lower ribs are completely intact.
Mm-hmm.
But what about number?
Yeah, how about
now the number you've got, from what I can see,
You can see in the mirror.
you've got a floating rib down here, which we all still have today. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Which is inconsistent
Which is
with?
inconsistent with most Homo sapiens.
What do most people have?
Well, it depends. Some people have an extra rib. It just depends on the individual. Typically, you're looking at anywhere from 6. Sometimes people will have as most as 7, but never at this size in terms of development.
So we got more ribs going.
You've got more ribs going than you would normally have for that form.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was looking at in the mirror at the back, and it just seemed
Oh,
like
I didn't even catch the mirror.
Yes. No, if you catch the mirror,
Yeah,
you can
yeah,
really
yeah.
see them coming.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, almost 10. You've got 10. That's really weird.
Really?
That's really weird.
I'm looking and thinking, I don't know a
It's
lot about
completely
anatomy.
genetically inconsistent.
I don't know a lot about anatomy, but it looked weird.
Yeah.
So thank you for backing
Yeah,
that up.
it is. It's
Thank you.
completely weird. And, function follows form, right? All throughout nature, meaning
Sure.
nature doesn't grow an arm unless the arm's going to be used, and nature isn't going to develop an intercostal unless there's something to protect. So that would indicate that the organs are displaced, maybe even reversed. That's kind of what that would tell me. You know, the reason that the rib cage forms here with such cortical tension is because it's protecting the heart, right?
and lungs, yeah.
But this appears to be inversed, right?
Oh yeah, they get bigger as they go down.
Right. So that inverse relationship tells me that
Oh, they
the
do,
organs
don't they?
might actually be inversed as well.
Wow.
So the heart is below.
The heart might be down
Right.
where our kind of where our stomach now is.
Right. Or even closer to the cervical spine, because you know
Back.
your mediasternum is here,
Right.
and you've got almost a superficial mediastinum that's developed on back where the spine would actually be. So in terms of formation,
Uh-huh.
so it's really strange.
So in terms of the skull and the drawing, do you see any possible relationship, or is that too simplistic?
It's a big of a leap because if you were to place tissue in and around the nose, it's going to come a lot higher, and I would imagine that there's going to be cartilage that's formed on this one just because of the place of where the jaw line is coming in.
Uh-huh.
So there's absolutely no cartilage on this artistic representation on the right. It seems to be simply just like a Chinese pug, like a dog, with no cartilage formation of the nose at all, whereas this skull is going to have some cartilage. There's no reason for there to be bone protruding that far out without there being some sort of superficial nose that comes out a little bit further.
Oh, okay.
Also, I'm looking at the drawing, and it doesn't seem to accommodate for the teeth.
No.
It's kind of pretending the teeth aren't
Right.
there too.
This guy's gumming it on the right.
Yeah, and this guy isn't.
And this guy isn't.
Yeah.
Supposedly.
Yeah.
So we are, in your opinion, though, we're definitely not looking at a Homo sapien.
You're not. No. If you are, you're looking at one that has severe genetic malformations.
Mm-hmm.
In other
And-
words, that the genes are not assimilating in a typical mutation.
Plus, they're out under a microscope even.
And they found this near here, hey, Ryan?
Yeah, he found it on top of the mountain in a graveyard, on the side of a recently excavated grave or plundered tomb.
Was it wrapped in some material?
No, it was just kind of left like that.
But do you see what I mean by the joint articulation here?
Yeah, it's very weird.
It doesn't follow any sort of consistency unless it's a quadrupedal organism.
You're talking about the arm?
Yeah. So a quadrupedal organism is going to need far more joint articulation lower on, what would be the tibular intersection. So here,
Yeah.
in order to have spring,
Yeah.
to be able to run,
Yeah.
on all fours.
But
So,
but it's still not looking like anything we know on the planet.
well, it could. I mean,
Yeah.
this could be, a weird dog corpse with a skull placed on top of it.
Dogs have that many ribs?
Usually, some breeds can, yeah.
Okay.
Well, he's actually taken it out before, and I photographed it. I can send you the photos.
And it's connected.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the spinal column goes straight up.
Straight
and
up.
through.
Wow.
And it's not, there was no sign of it being glued on or shoved on or anything like that. But unfortunately, the hands and feet. And,
But it still doesn't
missing.
explain why we don't have a vertebral column back there, does it?
No, it doesn't.